Hello, fellow mech warriors, Mage Leader here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all as excited for the news as I am, because we have a little something to talk about. Now, those of you who are relatively active in online Battletech spaces probably have seen this floating around a little bit, but some of you also might not have, so I figured, well, I can't not talk about it, can I? I mean, Jesus Christ, look at it. This is an upcoming product from Catalyst Game Labs, allegedly. I found this on Twitter. It was being posted and shared around. Apparently, it's been leaked. I don't know who leaked it. I don't know what the motivation behind it was. But apparently this has been in the works for a little while over there. And this is going to be something that's coming out. Now, when I first saw this on Twitter, I just assumed that it's an April Fool's Day prank. I mean, we're coming right up on the end of March here. What else could it possibly be? This has to be an April Fool's joke. And then somebody showed me this. Now, again, I don't know who took this photo. I don't really know where it comes from. I asked around. Nobody, at least in my circles, seemed to have much of an idea. Honestly, though, like, if I did know who leaked the stuff, I wouldn't rat them out, because it's kind of nice to know this is coming ahead of time. But this has minis, and apparently it's an entire thing. It's got maps, it's got minis, it's got a whole box set, rulebook, universe primer. All of this is actually a thing. And it has confused the absolute shit out of the entire Battletech community. We're still not sure exactly what's going on here. What the idea is this like a new actual product line that they're going to continue, or is this a one-off? What are we looking at here? The best that I've been able to gather from a few different people around is that this, at the very least, is a new box set. And it's a sort of, I mean, it's obviously a Battletech alternate universe where the mechs are built and designed and used to fight these genetically engineered monstrosities that have run amok. I don't know the details. I'm sure this wonderful universe primer here will have lots to say about it. But I mean, I had to assume it was a joke the first time I saw it. I mean, look at this. Battletech Gothic. It's so obvious. Like, at first blush, that name is so similar to Battlefleet Gothic from Warhammer 40k. It looks like 40k. The picture here on the cover, I don't want to insult the artist, but like, this looks AI generated to me. Like, the details on it are so confused and weird. It's a low-res photo, to be fair, but like, the cover almost looked AI generated to me. And so I was really skeptical. Like, ain't no way. Here's this. We're coming up on April 1st. There's no way this is a real product. But like, no, this is a real thing. This Crowd Media here is a real company. I looked them up. Apparently, they're based in Russia. Interesting choice there, Catalyst, in terms of your bedfellows. But hey, you know, they like to use companies from terrible countries like Russia and China. But hey, that's another whole kettle of fish. But like, you look at this and you can't assume that it's anything other than a joke. And honestly, like, that's still kind of the position that I'm in here. What is this? This still strikes me as an April Fool's Day product, because it's not the first time Catalyst has put out a product to coincide with April Fools. I remember they had, I believe it was just like a rule book that they put out last year, or the year before. There's the Urban Mech LAM box. Like, they'll put out a little joke product. Embarrassing attempts in both cases. But, like, this is a hell of a lot of effort for a meme. And really that kind of cuts to the core issue that I'm having with this product as a whole. This is a lot of effort for Catalyst to put in. This is the sort of thing, if you want to do something like this, you need to make damn sure that the base game is in a very good spot before you start branching out and experimenting with spin-offs. You don't want to touch this sort of thing while the IP itself is languishing. And let's not kid ourselves, the current product, if we're talking just in terms of what Catalyst has put out, that's primarily the Ill Clan content, it's not doing great. Like, the books have been so terrible. Like, even some of the bigger proponents of the Ill Clan era looked at some of the more recent books and were like, yeah, this is dog shit, what the fuck is going on? You know, the current era of Battletech isn't doing very well. The classic content, the legacy content, is doing okay, but they're having big quality control issues and massive fulfillment issues. Supply and demand has never been Catalyst's strong suit. That's like before they were even putting out this new wave of Battletech stuff, supply and demand was a very big problem at Catalyst. That's nothing new. Fulfillment is a big problem over there. I mean, hell, I'm pretty sure that there's still stuff from the Clan Invasion Kickstarter that hasn't been fulfilled like it's supposed to be. They ran a whole other Kickstarter. And when, like, they make these new waves of product, like, the product comes out in waves. You put out that initial rush, and then you try to sell through your inventory to maximize your profit so that you can get the next wave ready. Ideally, you shouldn't have to crowdfund your second and third product waves, but Catalyst has had to do it both times, which is a pretty good indication that the product isn't selling very well outside of those Kickstarters. The Kickstarters themselves are massive, like, they're big, they're successful, but outside of those Kickstarters, they keep coming back to it because that's where they make pretty much all of their money with Battletech, is Kickstarter. That's not a sustainable business model long term, and you know, I can only speak from my own experience, but I've been to game stores all over the country, and the places that even bother to stock Battletech stuff nowadays, it rots on the shelves everywhere that I've seen. Now, I've talked to people who say that it flies off the shelf at their local store. I'm sure that's the case in some places, but I've been to Barnes & Nobles around because they carry it. I've been to smaller game stores, bigger game stores. If they even have Battletech, which a ton of them still don't, like, they don't care about it. But the places that do, it doesn't tend to shift off the shelves as much as something like Warhammer or Bolt Action or Flames of War, or pick pretty much any other tabletop war game that people play. Battletech kind of just sits there. It'll move a little bit, but nowhere near to the degree of other mainstream games. And so most of the issue isn't really so much that Catalyst is woke or whatever. Like, that's causing its own fair share of issues. I reported on some of the shady dealings of Catalyst, and I'm sure that that's affecting them negatively to an extent, but really their big problem from a production standpoint is that they put so much into these Kickstarters. Everyone buys their Kickstarter. They get a couple $1,000s worth of product, some of them, in huge bulk, and then it takes forever to get to them. It finally does. I mean, there are people today who are still waiting on Mercenaries fulfillment. But, like, that giant Kickstarter gets to you, and you have this massive stack of product. Tons of mechs, tons of minis, tons of battle maps. You know, when are you going to go back to the store and buy product off the shelf? You have so much stuff now that's come to you from your Kickstarter that you ordered over a year and a half ago. That all finally gets to you. Why would you go back to the... You now have a massive backlog of models to paint. You now have pretty much all the product from the wave that you really wanted to get. Everything else is just kind of a bonus. They put all their eggs in that particular basket, so when people want Battletech stuff, they get it from the Kickstarter, and then they're kind of set. There's nothing in the Battletech game that really drives people to go out and constantly buy more product. I know guys who still play with their minis from the 1980s, and they haven't felt a need to go buy the new plastics because they have a massive inventory of pretty much everything that's ever been made for this franchise. There's no real new product that must be bought. And yeah, the new plastics, they do look good, and a lot of people do want those new plastics because they like the designs of them, they like the way they look, they want to paint something, a new take on one of their old favorites, but it's not required. All this product is optional. And when that's the case, I think that the best approach that they could take would be to really knuckle down and get that legacy content going. Crank out the stuff that they know sells, that people like. Get it produced in good numbers, get it on the store shelves. But they haven't done that. They put it all on these giant Kickstarters to get a bunch of money in out the front so that they can get a product line rolling, and then the product line just kind of sits there. And you know, that's not a situation where you want to be spending your resources frivolously. You want to be, ideally, funneling all that fancy Kickstarter money into your next wave of actual mainline products so that you don't have to go back to Kickstarter again. But Catalyst comes out with this. This is the next thing. They put resources into this. They put it into that AI card system for the game, so that the game will play itself without your input. You can have enemies that work on complete RNG instead of somebody actually moving them around. And I know a lot of people in the comments of the video on that system thought that the idea was great, and I guess I'm just out of touch on that one, but I still don't think it's a particularly great idea. It's a weird thing to put all your efforts into that when your mainline stuff is struggling in so many ways. It's not a good idea to put your effort into spin-offs at this juncture. Or new expansions for Alpha Strike. You want to get that classic audience, because that's the bulk of people who play the current era of Battletech. It's people who used to play Battletech. There are some newer people who have gotten into it. They've come over from 40K, but gotta understand, like, Battletech appeals to people primarily. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but people get into Battletech through Intro Tech and Clan Invasion. Succession War. Like, that's the eras of Battletech that people know. That's what's most readily available. That's what people get into Battletech with, and that part of the new product line, it's been a little bit neglected recently. The Mercenaries Kickstarter had some really good stuff. There were some cool new minis in it. There's some neat packs that have been put out. But this sort of thing isn't what people want to see. And I'm just going through my comments section. Let me pull up what's going on I made a post about this. Let's see what people have to say. So here's the post I made on my channel. Let's take a look through the comments and see what people have to say. We'll go newest first. So all it is just this picture here. How do you go into a pitch meeting with Gothic Battletech and walk out having convinced people it's a genuinely good idea? We have one guy here, Deep Strike, who's really enthusiastic about it. That's pretty cool. If it's not an April Fool's joke, it's just stupid. Playing since 92. Was truly hoping this was a joke when I saw it, because CGL's hell-bent on trying to gaslight the very fan base that's kept BT alive for 40 years. If I want Grimdark, I'll play one of any number of games that are based in those settings. I'm going to stick to 3D printing what I need for tabletop. I'm sort of get on board with a planet full of megafauna where rich mech owners go to hunt trophies, but if this mech is mech versus demon or Battletech plus 40k plus Trench Crusade, not interested. These look terrible. I like 40k well enough, but one of the reasons I like Battletech so much is because it isn't 40k. CGL is going the same way Wizards of the Coast did with Magic the Gathering, just shoehorn every popular IP into their own and hope it sells. I think Tino Worlds here actually has a pretty good point. This may just be an attempt to shove something popular in. This had better be an April Fool's joke. Again, I think it is, but like this is a lot of product for a joke. It's not a great use of resources, in my opinion. Battletech Gothic, I don't get it. What the frack is that behind the quad? Behind the quad. It's probably either the Urban Mech or the Atlas, I guess, is what he's talking about. CGL out of ideas already. What? Could be decent pirate mechs. Others look absolutely terrible. Product being over a year late. The Celestials being pushed back, which would have been a huge sell. Let's make this. I guess it's for the 40k refugees. Nope. If this is not an elaborate April Fool's joke, then CGL is just wasting money on some terrible ideas. That's just my comment section. Like, you go onto Twitter, the response has been fairly poor. I do see people who seem to think that it's a cool idea. I do see a few of those. A few people who say that they want to get it just to use these as pirate mechs. But the overwhelming majority, from what I see online, is that everybody's like, yeah, this better be a joke. This better not be an actual product. Well, it's an actual product. Whether or not it's intended as a joke is kind of up in the air. But man, if there's one thing that really should be taken away from this announcement, I think it's this. It wasn't too long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, that Catalyst announced that they were raising their prices across their entire product range because of tariffs, they claim. But honestly, I take a look across their entire product range and I see a company that is badly mismanaged their entire product range from start to finish. I mean, has there been a single release from Catalyst that hasn't been marred in some way by some kind of either controversy or poor fulfillment or poor logistics or Rem Alternus being on vacation? So apparently she's on vacation every other weekend. But all kinds of stuff. If the product comes out, it's funded through Kickstarter, and then the product itself comes out and just kind of sits on the shelf. Their marketing isn't all that great. Their public relations is appallingly bad. Everything they do online, I mean, they create echo chambers of their 5 or 6 really dedicated super fans who will eat up literally anything that they put out. And then they block and ban anybody who has any sort of criticism, constructive or otherwise. You know, I'll admit, I've been pretty harsh, so I'm not surprised that I got blocked, but people like Otterpops on Twitter, you know, he was one of the most enthusiastic people for Battletech product you could find. He was promoting Catalyst stuff regularly whenever there was a new release. He was, you know, big name and mover and shaker in the community, and they blocked him. They still haven't unblocked him, to my knowledge. It's just pure silliness. All the stuff that's gone on there. So you combine all of that, and like, it's no wonder that the product isn't selling incredibly well. And on top of that, the resources that they do have, they put into these stupid one-off meme products, which have questionable utility on the tabletop, and there's really nothing to them outside of the novelty factor. And goddamn, there's so much effort here. We've got stat sheets for everything. We have a whole universe thing. We have a short story made. We have Alpha Strike cards for all of these mech variants, which means that you can play this. We have what appears to be a more traditional sheet here. I see that they have the paper doll model there, and then Alpha Strike cards as well. So this thing is going to be playable in Classic and Alpha Strike. So they've made custom rules for both of those. There's all of these. I don't know what any of this is over here. We have different types of terrain. I assume these are going to be the monsters, stand-ins for that. They've done a lot of work here, and it genuinely looks like they're trying to launch a spin-off product where it's so close to April 1st. I want to believe this is just a joke, a one-off thing. Either way, it's a terrible, terrible use of their resources. And you want to look at all this mismanagement, all this wasted potential, all this using the few resources they do have to make these stupid meme products. And they want me to believe that tariffs are the reasons they're raising the prices? Sure. Sure. Tariffs that aren't even in effect are definitely the reason why you're raising prices. It's not because your stuff isn't selling and you're starting to see some financial troubles because people are sick of putting up with your shit. No, it can't be that. It has to be... It has to be the fault of a particular political party that's causing all of Catalyst's woes, and if only that didn't exist, we wouldn't have to pay so much for Battletech product. Doesn't affect me, I don't buy from Catalyst anyway, but what a terrible management decision here with this line of products. I don't just want to dump on them. I mean, that's as fun as anything else. I enjoy doing that, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, criticism without construction is just bitching, really, at the end of the day. Honestly, apart from just saying, this sucks, don't do it, if you want to do something productive and decent with the Battletech IP, you want to actually get players invested in what you're currently putting out and wanting to buy your new product the second it hits the store shelf. One of the things you have to do, you have to move away from the Kickstarter model because everyone buys everything at the start, and then they've got the entire product range for the next couple years just already in their possession. That sort of thing can't really sustain long term. I think their hope was that the die-hard fans would buy from the Kickstarter, and then other people who are casually interested would see it at a game store and be like, oh, that looks really cool, and pick it up. That really hasn't been happening because the marketing, the word of mouth about the new product is poor. The quality control is poor. The fulfillment is poor. People aren't that enthusiastic about sharing Battletech with people like they used to be. The new lore isn't particularly good, so people aren't trying to get people on board with the new storyline to anywhere near the same extent. They want you to go and enjoy older content, but that old stuff Catalyst isn't offering in the game store. You can get a lot of it from their website. You can get the older books, but those books don't show up in stores anywhere that I've seen. I don't see that at Barnes & Noble, ironically a bookstore. I don't know, maybe at your local one. Let me know in the comments. Have you seen any of the classic Battletech novels that Catalyst has got the rights to print? Because you can order them direct from their website. Did those ever show up at a bookstore near you? I'm genuinely curious. I'd like to see. You know, the fiction is what drives so much of Battletech. If you want to get something off the ground and actually get regular people to get on board with Battletech, because you can't just sustain this on the whales. There aren't enough of them, and you're losing them more and more every time you bungle one of these Kickstarter fulfillments. More and more people are dropping out. They're not as interested as they used to be. So what you gotta do, you gotta get the normies on board. You gotta get people who maybe love tabletop games and deep lore, but maybe are younger, haven't heard of Battletech before, because it's kind of a has-been franchise, let's be real. You want to get those people on board. You need to get them invested in the story, the parts that people actually really like. If this is an attempt to appeal to 40k fans, which I really, really hope it's not, please tell me this is a joke product. But if this is trying to appeal to the 40k crowd and get them in, with a sort of Age of Sigmar approach to Battletech, and the sort of alternate setting, this isn't going to work. 40k fans are not going to come over to Battletech because you've made it look somewhat superficially like 40k. It's not going to work. You've got to appeal to Battletech's strengths as they are. Utilize what is there, what is already good about the franchise, because there's a ton of stuff that's really good about the franchise. You know, you got to get with the lore channels. Don't just have them show off the new product ranges that you're putting out. Have them actually talk about the story. Work with them to engage with the audience more. Don't block half your community. Don't fire your old writers. over their politics. Don't block people because they criticize you. If you want to actually have success in the tabletop space, you have to make friends, not enemies. And you're not making any friends with this. All you've done for the past several years is make enemies every single place you turn. You won't appeal to why people love Battletech in the first place. The legacy stuff is there, but you don't promote it, and the new stuff that you put out isn't up to the same level of quality. So if you want success, you have to get back to the good stuff. That's where you've had the most success as a company. Where have you made pretty much all of your money? It's come from the Kickstarters for things like Clan Invasion and Mercenaries, people buying up those product ranges. But what else did you do with it? You put out the product line for people who already know about it, but if people don't know Battletech, what are they getting out of Clan Invasion? Not a whole lot. You didn't, because the lore isn't around. You've tried to move the story on with Clan, hoping that would draw people in, but there wasn't product to go with it. You had this weird situation where the literature you find on the bookshelf at the game store with the rulebooks doesn't match up with the product that's on the shelves. You wanted to have your cake and eat it. You had your Intro Tech minis sitting there on the shelf, and then an Clan source book sitting there. And some of the older TROs are around. Recognition guides, which again are some of the more popular releases, are the recognition guides that you put out for every era. You have some collections of fictional characters from the different eras, but where's the source books? Where's the story? You don't have any of that out there. People can't buy a book and read through the entire history of the Draconis Combine at the local store. They can buy the new Clan source book and go through that, or some of the summaries and other books, but you don't have anything to get people in on the ground floor to Battletech as a whole. You haven't managed to do that. You only have the most surface level tip of the iceberg stuff. For the people who want to dive deep, they have to turn to alternative sources that you don't control, and that's missed opportunity for marketing, that's missed opportunity for sales. Because you've driven people to an outside source. People come to my channel to watch me talk about lore with middling quality, questionable quality on the videos, and sometimes even the accuracy I mess up. But people come to listen to channels like mine, channels like MechFrog, Big Red. There's a bunch of us now that talk about Battletech lore. People have to go to other sources to learn, or go to older books. There's just so much opportunity to get people interested in your setting, and by just doing the things that Battletech is already good at. Battletech already has tons of quality to it, inherently. So I suppose that's kind of the end of everything I have to say. I really hope this is a joke. If this is a joke, then you're wasting your resources, because you should be focusing on the actual product range and getting it into a good place before you even entertain the notion of doing jokes like this, because this is a lot of product. Making minis, custom minis, is not a small thing. Writing out rule books and stat sheets and balancing because all this stuff had to be play tested, and that's taking resources away from what you could actually be doing. Now it seems like they've outsourced a bunch of it here to whatever Crowd Media is. I don't know if they're just doing production, or if they outsourced the printing to them, or the writing to them, or any of the rest of it. But regardless, like that's not the sort of thing you want to be seen putting out when the primary product is languishing. You want to be focusing in on that. So if this is a joke product, there's that to consider. If this is an attempt to launch a new product range to run concurrently alongside Battletech itself, it's going to flop. You're not going to get the audience that you think you would with this. So the lesser of those two evils is that this is a one-off gag for April Fools. But good God. don't do this as an actual product, guys. This is a mistake. It's a very big mistake. So yeah, that's the end of my thoughts. Hope that you were able to understand most of it. Let me know in the comments what you think, because the last time I talked about Catalyst's new product, everyone was super on board with it and enthusiastic in the comments section. So maybe everybody thinks that this is the coolest thing ever, and I'm just being a grognard again, but for God's sake, what the hell, guys? Come on. Come on. So yeah, until next time, this is Mage Leader, signing off.